What's up, everybody? Hope you're doing good. It's very cold today. That's why I'm kind of dressed warm, obviously. Hope you're doing good. Today, we're going to look into something very interesting. We lately spoke about how Africa should conduct itself with regard to international policies. We have somebody very strong here, Julius Malema of South Africa, the leader of the EFF. Young man, he's worked many years in ANC, which is Nelson Mandela's political party, then created his own party. We're going to listen to him a little bit, then make your comments a little bit later. Let's go.
The continued aggression of NATO, backed by the United States of America, who want to dictate to the world who everyone should love or hate, and who should be declared enemy and who should be declared a friend.
Very strong young man. The new era of leaders of Africa that say things the way they see them. They don't match the word. And that's beautiful to see. Somebody is strong, somebody is dedicated, as determined as he is, speaking very openly. Let's go.
While we are aware of the inability of the South African government to provide any meaningful arms to support Russia, we know that the United States of America is leading a global campaign to isolate and tarnish Russia's image. The U.S. is amongst other things using the ICC as an instrument to pursue narrow political agendas. It is clear that the USA seeks the destruction of Russia and has no interest in a peaceful resolution to the conflict. They preach a non-alignment when they are spreading billions of dollars to support Ukraine with military equipment.
So this is very interesting to see. Saying that the US is not willing to actually finish the war in Ukraine. They're preaching, supposedly saying, oh, we don't want the war. We want the war to end. But in reality, they are providing a lot of weapons, a lot of arms, a lot of equipment in Ukraine for the war, to perpetuate the war. Why? Because it's big business. Yes, fellas, war is a big business. And a lot of people are making a lot of money with the war in Ukraine. Unfortunately, as much as we would like all to see it end, I feel for the population of Ukraine who are going terrible time, going through very difficult time in life. But the reality is that some companies are benefiting from this war. They say the United States have sent $53 billion worth of weaponry to Ukraine in aid to Ukraine to combat Russia. But this is not aid. This is not gift. This money has to be reimbursed to the US, actually to private companies in the United States.
We as the EFF will be introducing a private member bill in Parliament to effect the withdrawal of South Africa from the International Criminal Court, which has thus far proven to be a biased instrument of global imperialism.
The EFF doesn't want South Africa to be part of the ICC anymore. The ICC is the International Criminal Court that was created in the objective of judging criminals or war criminals, countries that do genocide and crime of war, very bad things. Obviously, when the idea came across in the beginning, it was a very good idea because who wants to deal with war criminals? I think it would have been a great thing that they were brought into justice in order to pay for the things they have done. But unfortunately, that's not what we're seeing. So he says South Africa will not be part of the ICC anymore under his guide.
The ICC did not do anything against the former US President George Bush for the wars in Iraq and turned a blind eye when Barack Obama and NATO illegally invaded Libya to assassinate brother leader Muammar Gaddafi.
ICC did nothing against George Bush when they entered Iraq. We all remember when they accused Iraq of possessing mass destruction weapons of mass destruction. You either with us or you are against us. I hope you guys are going to put this video where the president says you either with us or you're not with, very simple. So you're either with the good guys or the bad guys. And unfortunately, many years later, after destroying completely Iraq, they have never found weapons of mass destructions. Never. ICC never called them up. None of them, neither Bush or Blair, was called to the ICC to go and respond for the death of millions of Iraqis. So their life destroyed and completely changed forever.
South Africa and all African countries must withdraw from the ICC, and the EFF will lead that effort. We therefore call on all BRICS members to strengthen their unity
All Africans should leave the ICC, Julius Malema says. Why? Because if you look at it, the big countries or the countries that should be respected, at least the country that require the respect of everybody else, here we're talking about the United States of America, is not part of the ICC. No, they're not. No American can be judged out of the United States justice system. If an American citizen does something wrong anywhere in the world, he will be judged in America. Yeah, Russia is not part of the ICC. They were in for a little bit, then they decided to pull out. China is not part of the ICC. So why is everybody else part of the ICC? Why should we accept a justice system that we do not control? In the meantime, some of the big guys are not part of it. Doesn't make sense. So he says all of Africa should withdraw from being part of the ICC.
And maximally support Russia to defend itself. This position also goes to show that as Africans, we cannot take a non-aligned and neutrality as the continuing conflict, such as the recent conflict in Sudan, have demonstrated that there are a proxy wars taking place. We cannot be threatened by disinvestment or trade relations at the expense of our right to determine our own foreign policy.
Absolutely. So here he talks about Sudan. In Sudan, we all thought it was about two general Sudanese fighting for power. In reality, that's not what's happening in Sudan. There is American soldiers in Sudan and Russian Wagner in Sudan. So it's basically a proxy war that doesn't necessarily belong to Africans. So Africans are living within their own lands, a war that does not belong to them. And this should stop. And again, he speaks here about South Africa being threatened with AGOA, which is the ability that America has gifted to many African countries to go and trade in the US without necessarily paying tax or paying a very small amount of tax in order to benefit African countries. That was said because they accused South Africa of sending weapons to China. Even though South Africa said this is not correct, there is no proof concluding that South Africa has been sending weaponry to Russia. They still throw in the threat of AGOA. AGOA probably won't be renewed if you do not come and align yourself with the West. And Julius Malema says here that South Africa does not have the means to arm Russia. They don't have the capacity, but they will not be threatened by anybody on who to be friend with, who to work with. Everybody should have the right to choose whoever they want to be friend with. Isn't that the world we want to live in? Shouldn't it be this way? That everybody chooses who their friends are? Isn't that democracy? Very strong person, Julius Malema. And people like him, unfortunately, many of them have been stopped in Africa. In the likes of Patrice Lumumba, in the likes of Thomas Sankara, in the likes of Pombe Magufuli, John. Most of the Africans that fight openly about the African rights and African freedom usually don't see the end.
We, as the EFF, also support the de-dollarization of the global economy. The senseless usage of the US dollar as the primary currency of exchange in the global economy has been largely abused by successive American governments.
So he supports the de-dollarization of the world economy. Yeah, most of the people use dollars to do international trade. In order to purchase petrol or oil, you needed to use the dollars to buy oil from Saudi Arabia. And that's what gave the US dollars the power that it has today. It's because they made an agreement in the 1960s. The president of the United States of America at the time asked Saudi Arabia to please sell their oil exclusively in dollars. And that gave the US dollar the power that it has up until now. Because before you purchase any oil from Saudi Arabia, you need to exchange your money from whichever currency you're using to the dollar, then use the dollar to purchase the oil. And that's why US money is so strong. Unfortunately, with that came so many issues. Whenever any country was not going eye to eye with the United States, they will use the dollar to punish the country, meaning they will devaluate the power of their currency through the use of the dollar, or just block them from using the SWIFT system that allows everybody to do international transactions. And what gives the US power right now in terms of economy, it's the dollar, the power of the dollar. Now, the de-dollarization is something that was promoted because many countries felt like they were being bullied by the US. Whenever they choose alternative way, they're going to be bullied. If they do not support something that the USA support, they're going to be bullied into economical destruction. As much as you may think about it, if you bully somebody too many times, let me give you a simple example. You host somebody in your house, they stay in your house. As soon as they make a small mistake, you tell them you're going to throw them out. As soon as they touch something or they break something, you say, you know what, I'm going to throw you out. What happens? They try to find alternative ways. It takes them some time maybe, but finally, they're going to be prepared. In case you throw them out eventually, they're not going to be in the street. They're going to stay somewhere. So an intelligent person will make plans in order, if ever your threat came to friction, they will have a place to go. This is exactly what has happened to many countries, finally deciding to work in hand, creating BRICS in order to avoid being punished by the US in terms of dollars.
The world, particularly the global south, must expedite the de-dollarization of the global economy, and South Africa must purposefully be on the forefront of this progressive global transition from American undue and unjustified hegemony. The EFF Central Command Team reiterates its call for meaningful support and solidarity of all oppressed nations, particularly to the people of Palestine, whose children continue to be killed in places of worship and their land is annexed by the apartheid Israel.
So now he's speaking about Palestine. Obviously, we all know what's happening in Palestine, between Israel and Palestine. He says that people turn a blind eye when it comes to Palestine, but everybody comes forward when it comes to Ukraine. Everybody has something to say. They're violating the right of Ukraine. They are bombarding innocent people. But as per Julius Malema, why doesn't anybody say a thing about Palestine? Why do people turn the blind eye? I extend my hand to Palestine, as he said. What do you think, fellas? How do you feel about this?
That ambassador of the USA was supposed to be taken out of our country the following day.
The ambassador of the US was supposed to be taken out of our country the next day.
He insulted us. He violated diplomatic protocols. That's why he was sanctioned. And then he started speaking in folk tongues and we didn't hear what he was saying. But a man who speaks like that in the name of diplomacy, you will immediately withdraw his credentials. That man's credentials were supposed to be withdrawn. There are lots of protocol channels that are established for those types of consents.
Very interesting. Again, he speaks here about the ambassador of the United States who made a very straightforward comment about South Africa, accusing South Africa of sending weapons to Russia. Julius Malema, as you can see, is a very strong figure. He doesn't match his word, doesn't play kiddie games. He's not afraid of anything. And again, I feel like many Africans, young Africans, should learn a lot about Julius. His attitude, his Pan-Africanism, is one of the people that really try to bring Africans together. Many times he's had pressure from local South Africans, not necessarily liking his policy about Africans. He's very open-minded, bringing in Africans from any other African country with no remorse, no difficulties. And many people have not necessarily agreed with that. Do you think this is a good approach, to be very open about things that you don't like? Should you express yourself very openly? This is what is wrong, because unfortunately we live in a world that's very hypocrite. The hypocrisy of the world. People just shut up when things happening to certain population. They don't say anything about it. If war is happening in Africa, nobody says a thing. If things are happening in Palestine, nobody says a thing. When things are happening in Ukraine, then the whole world has to stand up for something. God bless.